Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Overdress Seraph Snow deck profile for Post-Festival Collection 2022. With the release of the latest Festival Collection, we did get new support for the Prison deck, which focuses on the Seraph Snow Grade 4 and the additional ride line to put all of your opponent's units, whether they be in the drop zone, the field, and their hand, into the prison, gaining you additional card abilities based on how many different units you have in your prison of your opponents. It's a very interesting take on the use of set normal orders for Brantgate, and really happy with some of the new support that we got from the Festival Collection. It just helps for additional play styles for the prison deck. So big thanks to my buddy Jim for letting me borrow his prison deck for the deck profile. I'll have the link to his channel down below. He actually does a few videos himself for Vanguard, so definitely check it out if you're looking for some more Cardfight Vanguard content. And let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the ride deck, since the last update, the ride deck has remained the same, with Ruby Red being the starter. When you roll a pawn, went second, you draw a card. Our grade 1 is Aurora Battle Princess, Kyanite Blue. When it's placed on Vanguard Circle, you search your deck for up to one prison card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So the prison card is very vital for your playstyle in the deck. You only need the one copy of it though, but for the grade 2 being Reset Pink, when this unit is placed on Vanguard, your opponent chooses a card from their hand and imprisons it in their prison. So more of a setup for your guaranteed prison lineup for your opponent to either get back with the orders regulations. And the grade 3 is the only copy of Seraph Snow that we run in the deck. During your turn, if one or more of your opponent's cards are in the prison, this unit gets plus 10,000. If there are 3 or more cards, this unit gets drive plus 1. For the added pressure of 3 drive checks, you can easily get to 3 units on the first turn when you ride this card. And on the Vanguard Circle, you can counter plus 1 and choose 2 of your opponent's rear guards and imprison them in your prison. So as long as you have some of the other setup cards, if your opponent hasn't, released from prison the other card you put in with Reset Pink, you can have your 3 units set up for your triple drive for your Seraph Snow. And before we get to the grade 4 lineup, just starting off with the only normal set order that we run in the deck, and that is Galaxy Control Prison Galactus. With this card, you rest one of your units to play this card. When it's put into the order zone, you soul charge 3, and when your opponent with this card normal calls a rear guard, they can perform the following. They can either Soul Blast 1 to choose one of their imprisoned cards, call to rear, or Counter Blast 1, and then choose 2 of their imprisoned cards. This is how they release their cards from the prison for the Seraph deck. But really, just the setup is needed with this card to get all your units in the prison. Without this set order, you don't have any of your plays for the entire deck. For the grade 4s, running 4 of the Seraph Pure Light. For the prison deck, this just adds immense pressure. When this unit is placed on Vanguard, Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1 card with Seraph in its card name. Your opponent chooses 2 cards from their hand, rear guards, and soul, and imprison them in your prison. That's a good number of units to be placed in the prison. And on the Vanguard Circle, during your turn, all of your front row units get plus 5 for every 2 cards, and your opponent's cards imprisoned in the prison. If 10 or more cards are imprisoned, all of your front row also get an additional critical. Now, along with the pressure that this card provides, it does work very well with the new grade 3 we have from the Festival Collection. I have 1 copy of this card in the deck. You can always run a second copy. It's more of a pressure card for a finisher with the pressure that Seraph Pure Light can provide. With Aurora Battle Princess, Launcher Charlene on the rear guard circle, during the battle this unit attacked, your opponent cannot call normal units from the hand of the guard circle, and they cannot play blitz orders from the hand. So with the option of taking away blitz orders or even just normal units, they have to have some pretty good guard options to block this card's attack, especially when it's been stacked up in power thanks to cards like your Seraph Pure Light. And then for the grade 2s, I'm running 3 of the new Aurora Battle Princess, Barrage Litra. Now, you can always drop the number of Litra down to 2 and put in a second copy of Charlene. That's player preference there as well for how many rearguard options you want for your units. And on this one on rearguard, your opponent's units is retired from the rearguard or guard circle during the battle this unit attacked. You can imprison the card that was retired to your prison. So with the guard option, if you have a pretty big stacked critical attack with this unit attacking into your opponent, they either will have to take the damage and risk being at a higher damage count, or if it's one that would cost them the game and they have to guard that unit, you'll just have more cards set up in their prison for you to use. And most of the time, there'll be triggers that they don't even want to get out, meaning more and more cards stacked up for you the following turn to use with Seraph Pure Light. I still run the 4 of the Macarite for the Aurora Battle Princess. Now, this card actually was confirmed another reprint for the promos, so I know it was kind of a pricey promo for people for a good while, but having it have another reprint soon will definitely be a boost for people looking to readily get this card for their deck. And for some of the lower numbers for the grade 2s, I also run 2 copies of Aurora Battle Princess Spark Limon. When this unit attack hits, choose up to 2 units from your opponent's drop zone and imprison them in your prison. So more of a usage for that extra pressure against your opponent, but they do have to have cards in their drop zone for you to fully use this card for the 2 units. Most of the time, early game, if you get it and they don't have any cards, they'll just take the attack and not waste having to put cards in their drop zone from their guard circle and then just giving you fuel to add to the prison with this card. And then for more power minusing with the deck, I also run 2 Aurora Battle Princess, Perlo Turquoise. On rearguard during your turn, and when one of your opponent's cards are in prison, this unit gets plus 5,000. And in the front row, when an opponent's card is in prison, and the prison is placed on rearguard, it gets minus 5,000, being more of a weaker unit and having to make up for cards like with the Persona Ride or additional power to make up for the 5,000 loss. So that's going to be used as another unit or another purpose on the rearguard. And then for the last of the grade 2s, I run 2 copies of Aurora Battle Princess, Cuff Spring. When this unit is placed on rear, your opponent chooses a card from their hand and imprisons it in your prison. If it was in prison, your opponent draws a card. So makes up for the hand loss that they take with this card, but it could take away vital cards if your opponent just has 1 card in their hand remaining. It could be the Persona Ride they needed or the proper ride to their grade 4, depending on how many cards they have in their hand, or they wouldn't want to give up a Sentinel. It all comes down to what and how many cards they have left in their hand when this unit is placed. And moving on now to the grade 1s, I run 3 of the new Aurora Battle Princess, Horn Apricot. When this unit boosts a Vanguard with Seraph and its card name, counterblast 1, your opponent chooses a trigger from their drop zone and imprisons it in your prison. So more setup for the pressure with this card being able to be provided as a boost to your opponent. I run 3 of this card so we can see it more often during the games. It just has to be set up as early as possible behind your Vanguard because you can have the grade 3 ride target for Seraph and still be putting units from your opponent's drop zone into their prison. And like I said, with trigger units, most of the time your opponent won't even be swayed to, release that card from the prison as not a vital unit for them to use. Still running 4 of the Shovel Stud as well for additional options of choosing an opponent's rearguard and imprisoning it for just a counterblast and a soul blast once per turn. And then if 3 or more cards are in your opponent's prison, you draw a card. So draw power once per turn as another added grade 1 to boost rearguards along with that added pressure of imprisoning once per turn. And then for the last of the grade 1s, just 4 of the Violate Dragon for the Sentinel of Choice, being able to block a good number of attacks of your opponent, just with the hand conservation, being able to save that last card in your hand to not discard with, to either save for a Persona Ride, or if it was an additional option with this deck, I said Persona Ride, but you do run and ride into the grade 4 consistently for the Soul Blast, so I guess it's kind of like a similar Persona Ride, and making up for that additional card usage. And then moving on now to the trigger lineup, going for more of a rainbow build for the deck. So 4 of the Patrol Robo Decker Cop. He does have 2 of the Loris Yellow in here just as a spot. You really don't use it as much for the soul buildup for this option, so if you just have the Loris Yellow, that's fine as well. For the critical trigger number, more usable is the guard power with the Cardinal Draco, so you do want 4 of this card for the additional +5, and the added plus pressure to the front row always comes in handy when using this along with Seraph Pure Light. And also running 3 of the Amalurate Collector for the draw trigger to have more hand consistency depending on cards you may need to draw into, along with the +5 shield. And then for the heal triggers, running 2 of the True's Green original heals for the deck for the added 15k shield that this card provides, and also 1 of the Obofold, gaining an additional 15k when your opponent's unit has a critical 2, or its ability, effect ability for the critical, and 1 of the Creaking World if your opponent's unit attacks twice, gaining an additional +15. I just run 1 of each of the heals as added options to hold into your hand, knowing you're playing against that specific deck, or if your opponent got lucky and got a critical trigger. And then the last of the triggers just being the 1 Elder Breath for the additional pressure if you get this card, doubling all the power and critical on the field. So depending on if you get this card after a critical, it can be even more scary against your opponent. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Once again, thanks to my buddy Jim for letting me borrow the deck for the video. It's really awesome that we keep on getting prison support. I'm sure we'll see more of it in set 6 when it's released as well, with all the other new support we'll be getting for the characters reoccurring in the new Will Dress series. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.